Greetings YouTube, Buzz here. Welcome to a game that I am not ashamed to admit I've been excited about since I heard it was first announced. This is 2 Point Hospital, brought to us by the guys at 2 Point Studios. Before we go any further, I just want to give a massive shout out and thank you to all of my supporters and to Morgan Felix, who recently went ahead and signed up as a patron over at Patreon. So thank you guys so much for your support. Without any further ado guys, let's go ahead and get straight into the game here. This is 2 Point Hospital and we're going to be going through the tutorial level, so about the first 35 minutes or so of the game. I hope you enjoy.
At 2 Point Hospital, over 52% of our patients believe they leave healthier than when they arrived. Our precisely calibrated equipment is operated by compassionate healthcare practitioners, many of whom have even been to medical school or watched ER. If you suffer from turtle head, let us ease your worries and noggin gently out of your body. Chest infection is no laughing matter. Put your trust and oversized shoes in our capable hands. We're building a brighter, safer future, and hardly anything will stand in our way. You deserve the best. So join us at 2 Point Hospital. We're open for new staff, new patients, and a new you. Can I go play golf yet? I'm teeing off at 3.
2 Point Hospital then has been created by 2 Point Studios, a relatively new company that is led by a couple of developers that actually worked on Theme Hospital back in the 90s. So it goes without saying that you're going to be seeing a whole lot, especially if you're obviously aware of Theme Hospital and have played that, a whole lot of similarity and familiar features that are going to be present in this game. Which, if I'm going to be honest with you, is the main thing that actually drew me to this title. I absolutely adored Theme Hospital back in the day, and I put so many hours into that game. It was so much fun, and from what I've seen, 2 Point Hospital is going to do a fantastic job at satisfying that kind of nostalgia that many people that played the original game still have to this day. That said, if you never played Theme Hospital, or if you're not aware of it, or for whatever reason you never got to experience it at all, this is still a great simulation game. I've only played it for about 30 minutes, but I've read some of the reviews that are out there online, and, you know, I don't think you'll be disappointed. So, you know, stick around, check this out, and let me know what you think in the comment section. It's just going to be a complete wacky experience, but it's also, you know, somewhat addictive and fun, and just generally, it's a good simulation game, but with a fantastic polish and design applied to it. So this would be, as they say, a spiritual successor to 2 Point Hospital, which in my opinion, a lot of the time actually works better than whoever owns the rights to actually, you know, create games in that franchise. This actually works better than a direct sequel might work, as we saw with Roller Coaster Tycoon. Sometimes game developers, or sorry, game publishers can fall into the trap of hoping a game is going to sell based solely on a name, and that isn't going to be the case here. This is going to be a game that really has to push itself on its own merits in many ways. We saw, didn't we, with Roller Coaster Tycoon, how Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 was a fantastic game, but Roller Coaster Tycoon World, the sequel which came out last year I think it was absolute rubbish, and you know, it got absolutely slated in the press by the Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise's fans. Everybody just despised that game, and yet we had Planet Coaster, which was brought to us by the same developers that made Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. It was a spiritual successor to that game, not sharing the same branding or name or anything, but everybody basically was agreed that that was the true successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. And I think we're going to have a similar situation here with Theme Hospital. No, this isn't a Theme Hospital game, but in many ways it is in all but name. The game was only just released today, so you can pick 2 Point Hospital up for yourselves if you want to, as of 30th of August 2018, and it's available on PC, Linux and Mac. So there's no console release for this game at the moment. Whether that's going to change in the future, I literally have no idea. But you can actually pick this up, I think, for about 10% discount or so off Steam as of the time I'm making this video. So, you know, that might be helpful for you guys. And let's get started then. So I've gone ahead and selected the first tutorial hospital, or rather the first hospital which is a tutorial. And for those of you, once again, it's going to be hard not to draw the similarities to Theme Hospital as we work through this, but for those of you that played that original game, the tutorial is very, very similar in many respects, and it's, you know, it's a helpful tutorial, so that's not a criticism at all. You're going to start by placing your reception desk, getting your receptionist or your assistant, as they're called in this game, and then you're going to move on to building the absolute basics of the rooms that you're going to need for diagnosis and treatments. For those of you who do have absolutely no knowledge or experience of this type of game, 2-point hospital, theme hospital, or the like, then it might seem a little bit of a strange concept that you get to, you know, build and manage your own hospital. I mean, hospitals aren't exactly at the forefront of our imaginations, are they, when we think of fun? They, you know, usually evoke pretty much the opposite kinds of emotions and thoughts in us. Nobody really likes going to them, but I can assure you that is not what you'll be thinking when you play 2-point hospital. So I've just gone ahead and placed the receptionist here. Obviously, you're not going to have much of a hospital if people can't actually come and register when they turn up and have their appointments booked for the various rooms to see doctors and what have you. And there's going to be a lot of humour as we play through this, so I'm going to try and be quiet when that kicks off through the radio, which is another fantastic touch, I've got to say, actually.
This is Ricky Hawthorne on 2-Point Radio. This is Ricky Hawthorne, bringing talk, music and news to the whole of 2-Point County. And if you're listening to us from the newly opened hospital, just turn up that volume, because nothing drowns out the sound of sick people like the voice of a world-class DJ. Coming up next, 42 hours of music from the background band. Enjoy!
Now, one of the challenges that you're going to face as you work your way through 2-Point Hospital is managing the space of the hospital itself. You actually have quite a bit of freedom with how big you make each of your rooms. For instance, here I'm making building the GP's office, and I could make it a lot bigger than I have, but obviously that would be pretty pointless because I've got to get a lot of other different rooms in. The GP's office is going to serve a specific purpose, but it's not in itself going to be enough to cure patients. So you really want to try and plan ahead, and it's not so important on this first tutorial level because you've only got a limited number of rooms to work with anyway. But just try and create something that's not only aesthetically pleasing, and it's very easy to make something aesthetically pleasing with this stunning art system that we've been given here, but also one that's quite practical as well.
Patients are reminded not to be sick.
And speaking of the rooms, there's two main types of room that are going to help your patients to leave the hospital feeling a heck of a lot better than how they came in. And they are the diagnostic rooms and the treatment rooms. So obviously, as you can probably imagine, the diagnostic rooms are going to discover what's actually wrong with the patient. It might seem obvious to you if somebody's got lightheadedness, you know, they've got a light bulb stuck on top of their neck, but they still have to go through the process of being diagnosed. And once the hospital's given them a satisfactory diagnosis, they'll then proceed to whatever the various treatment rooms are that you've built that can help them to be cured from their particular condition. However, there's also utility rooms, which are also very important. So these are going to include things like toilets, staff rooms, research rooms, just things that your hospital is also going to need. Maybe not in the first, 30 seconds to a few minutes that you've opened, but eventually you are going to want to start placing these down as well. But I do suspect most of the time the first room you're going to want to build is the general practitioner's office, as I'm doing here. And the way this is going to work in terms of building is the room will have a certain number of required items in order for the room to actually work at all. So in the case of the GP's office, I think that's the GP's desk and the filing cabinet. But then you have the option to include some other items as well. So in this case, I'll put another window in, a couple of plants, fire extinguisher and a bin. By the way, I try and generally myself make a habit of making sure every room includes plants, fire extinguishers and bins. They're almost like a required item as far as I'm concerned, because basically they're just going to keep the hospital running smoothly in the various areas and categories that they're going to supplement. And there are like overlay type heat maps you can look at to see, for example, if you've got enough plants scattered around the place, or fire extinguishers or bins for your patients, etc, etc. But we won't get into too much of that in this episode, since that's more going to be delving into the intricacies of the management system. And yes, this game is fun, yes it's silly, but obviously at its core it is still a management simulation game. And from what I've seen, it does actually do a good job with those particular features. Now, from what I've seen so far, it doesn't reinvent the wheel in terms of the management in any way, shape or form. But that doesn't matter, let's be honest. If you like management games, then, you know, it's important in a sense, I guess, that it is somewhat familiar. And it certainly is somewhat familiar in that sense as well. Okay, so we've just got a message there telling us that we've managed to diagnose successfully, which is a start, our first patient. And we can't really see anything visibly wrong with the patient, although we are told if we click on them here that they do require to go to the pharmacy for a concoction that needs to be, well, shoved down their neck. And the pharmacy is going to be the first treatment room. So remember I told you there's diagnostics and there's treatment rooms, GPs being diagnostics. Well, pharmacy is treatment, and anything that requires any kind of drug that needs to be taken is going to be taken in the pharmacy. And once again, when building your rooms, just make sure that you don't go mad in terms of how big you make them, since you are going to want to plan ahead a little bit in order to maximise the space that you've been given. Now, the pharmacy itself only has one required item that has to be placed in it, and that's the drug mixing machine, or whatever that thing is called. But you can also, as always, place some other items as well. And I've gone ahead and put in a filing cabinet along with the usual plant bin and fire extinguisher. I also recommend making sure that you put some windows around as well. Now, whereas the GP's office required a doctor, the pharmacy is going to require a nurse. And whenever you're recruiting or hiring new staff, you'll get a list of the staff that have put in their job application or whatever that you can hire from. And you can literally just click on each of them and see, you know, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what it is they're going to bring to your hospital. And also the cost of how much it's going to be to hire that member of staff. And this is true across the board for all the different types of staff, from doctors to nurses to janitors to receptionists. And you can just go ahead and make your choice then based on how much value you think each member of staff is going to bring. Obviously, when you're starting out, you're probably going to have to go for the slackers a little bit more because they are cheaper. But then as you start to bring in the dough, you can start to up the quality of the staff that you're hiring. It's just another level of management that you need to handle. And of course, when it comes to staff, it's not a simple case of hiring them and leaving them to it. They're going to need ongoing care. And eventually we are going to have to build a staff room to look after them. And we can also click on individual staff members in order to see their happiness, their tiredness at the time, what it is they're doing, etc, etc. In my opinion, one of the hallmarks of a good management game is, do you have something to do? Once you start running out of things to do, yeah, it's nice just to look around your hospital, for example, and to see what's going on. But if you don't actually have any tasks to do, then, you know, the management's kind of not really there. On the other hand, if you have so much to do, it stops being fun because everything becomes a chore and you can't really, you know, do anything without everything falling apart. Then that's perhaps taking management to a little bit of an extreme. One of the reasons I can't generally stand free to play management games on my phone or whatever, on tablet, because unless you actually put money into them, you'll tend to left to just wait for hours on end, aren't you, not doing anything while you're waiting for things to build or whatever the case may be. So obviously that's not the case here. As I said, I think the management is pretty much spot on. So we've got a message here telling us about keeping people happy, and I've already preempted this, haven't I, by telling you about the fact that I do like to build plants and whatnot around the areas that we're building. And that works not only in rooms but out of rooms as well. It keeps people happy. And plants aren't the only thing you can build in order to keep the happiness levels up. There's other things you can build outside of the rooms which are also going to help. For example, things such as drinks machines, snack machines. And benches is something you do not want to underestimate either. The power of the bench, where people can actually sit down and rest their legs while they wait for their next appointment. So guys, if you don't have enough benches around the place, then your patients will be standing up, obviously, and they won't be standing up for long before they decide they have enough and leave the hospital. So one thing, which can be easy to forget, I admit, but one thing I do recommend you try and do every time you build a new room is just put a bench or two outside it, so that you can satisfy those people that are going to be waiting for doctors or nurses or whatever the case may be. And a leaflet stand, which was part of the quest that I was doing there. And I'm not sure if this quest system is going to be present on all of the levels. I'm assuming that it is, but it's definitely present here on the tutorial level. And it's just going to pop up from time to time on the upper right hand of the screen, so keep an eye out on that. It'll tell you what objectives it wants you to do in order to move on to the next step. And right now it's telling us we need to build a staff room. So obviously a staff room is very, very important. You're not going to be able to have a hospital surviving long term if you don't have at least one of them. It's not something you're going to build immediately when you first open, since the staff will need to work for a little bit, of course, before they get tired, but eventually it is going to become a necessity. Hence the reason the tutorial now wants us to go ahead and build one. So it looks like we've got a nice open space here. I think it's a fantastic space, in fact, for the staff room. So we're going to go ahead and select that next. Now, as always, there's going to be a couple of required items. I think there's only one required item actually for the staff room, and that's the sofa. Everything else you can put in is optional. However, you are going to want to put more than a single settee in the room. Already at this point, having been playing for about 15 minutes or so, we've got numerous members of staff, and one settee is not going to occupy them for very long. Now later on, as we progress through the game, we're going to unlock more items that we can include in our rooms, including the staff room.
Get off those feet.
So we're going to be able to, for example, place a television down later, amongst other recreational items as well. But for now, I'm just going to stick a few lockers in, another settee and a couple of armchairs. Maybe if I go ahead and make a nice little cubby area here, then we've got space for a television later on for people to sit down and watch when we are actually able to build one. Now you can see some of these items, and it's going to be the same in every room, are locked to us. They have that red padlock, and they have a requirement in red that we need to meet in order to go ahead and place those items. And that requirement is a type of currency called kudosh. And yes, I do say that right, it's not kudos, it's kudosh, D-O-S-H. And you get that by curing patients and by basically increasing the value of the hospital. For example, if you look at the bottom right hand corner of the screen where all the numbers are located, you can see the amount of money we have, $192,000. And just underneath that you have the reputation bar. Talk about that in a moment. And just to the right of that, you have another small number, 20 in this case, and that is our current kudosh. So as we increase that, that's going to unlock new items for us that we can place in the rooms. So there we have it, a staff room. And judging by that wallpaper and carpet, it looks like a 1970s, 70s staff room. But hey, as long as it keeps our staff happy, then I'm happy. But I did just mention, actually, didn't I, reputation at the bottom, just there. Right now it says reputation is fine. So reputation is obviously something that we need to improve, and the higher our reputation, then the more likely patients are going to want to visit our hospital in order to get diagnosed and cured of their condition. Now if our reputation drops, then we're going to struggle to actually entice patients here in the first place. So obviously very important thing to keep note of. Now in order to actually increase our reputation, we need to cure patients. Pretty much as simple as that. Each time we cure a patient, our reputation is going to increase. However, if you don't cure a patient, if they leave the hospital, or if, worst comes to the worst, they actually die because you didn't diagnose them enough before treating them, then you are actually going to lose a significant amount of that reputation you've been gaining. So just be careful with that. So since we're building utility rooms at the moment, having just gone ahead with the staff room, I thought it'd be a good idea to actually give our guests and our staff, well, patients rather, they're not really guests, are they? It's not a hotel. Give our patients and staff some ablutionary facilities for when they need to go and, well, do what it is that people do. So I don't know why I've ended up with 4 toilet cubicles here, but only 3 sinks and 3 dryers. It could be a little bit awkward fighting for the hygiene after they've done their business, maybe, if we get all 4 people in at once. So one thing you can't place, and I think it's something that makes sense, to be honest with you, in a toilet room, is windows. You can't place windows, but you can still place dustbins and plants and fire extinguishers. So as usual, I would recommend that you do so. So there we have it, our bathroom. It has become the central focal point of our hospital here. Slap bang in the middle. But hey, it needs to be accessible from all angles. Especially in hospital when people need to go. Sometimes they need to go, don't they? And as you can see, we've got more patients arriving and our hospital level is increasing. The hospital level is down with all those management numbers at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. It's right there, bottom left of that section. And we've already leveled up already, as you can see. I'm not sure exactly yet on the fundamental differences between the hospital level and reputation, so I need to play a little bit longer before giving you any definite information about that. But I think they are quite similar systems in all honesty, and I do believe the hospital level, but I could be wrong on this, does actually, the higher it gets, entice more patients to come and visit as well.
What a smashing day for a bit of gardening. I mean, who doesn't like gardening? Digging up a bit of soil, sticking your hands in a bit of manure. Oh, I can almost smell it now. No, wait, the sewage pipes burst again. No, my mistake. Anyway, keep those fingers green.
So a GP's office isn't the only form of diagnosis that your hospital is going to require. Indeed, in many cases, as you start to get more advanced illnesses present in the hospital, it's only going to be able to diagnose to a certain percentage for the patient, indicating that you're going to need other diagnostic rooms to continue on with that process so that you don't kill the patient by administering the wrong treatment. And in this case, what I'm doing is building the general practitioner's office, which is going to provide alternative forms of diagnosis. So yes, patients will still go to the GP's office, but then when that's not quite enough to find out exactly what's wrong with them, they can visit our general practitioners in order to give the hospital more information about their condition. And unlike the GP's office, the general practitioners actually requires a nurse as opposed to a doctor. So we'll hire another nurse here. This is our second nurse, having already hired one for the pharmacy. It should be noted you don't technically have to hire a member of staff for each of the room that requires that particular member of staff. The staff will actually move about the hospital as to where they're needed, but obviously that's going to increase waiting times for your patients, since they're going to be waiting for staff members to come to the room that they need to go into. And since we're already getting busy here, we've got lots of patients walking around the place, I thought it is a good idea to just ensure that we do have at least one member of staff per room. And so far it seems that the majority of our patients have been quite ordinary looking, but for those of you that are familiar with Theme Hospital, you know that inevitably that's not always going to be the case. There are some very strange conditions in this game, as you're going to see by an example of one of them before the end of this particular video. So here we have a news flash, and indeed we are told of a new illness in town called lightheadedness. Now, lightheadedness is something that was already revealed through the marketing of 2 Point Hospital, so you might already be familiar with it, but indeed we're going to experience this for ourselves now in just a moment's time. However, the next set of objectives are available to us, and one of the objectives is to build another GP's office. This is going to be common practice as we go through the career mode of 2 Point Hospital, mainly because a single GP's office is not going to be sufficient for all the diagnostics that will be required. I've actually put that desk in the wrong way around. Technically it doesn't make any difference to the actual gameplay, but for my own sanity I am going to turn that around so the doctor's got his back to the wall, as you would expect. And you can of course build multiple of each of the rooms that you build, but a GP's office is perhaps the one that's going to be most important.
We'll be right back.
And perhaps unsurprisingly, I'm just going to duplicate pretty much what we did with the first GP's office, and I'll probably stick another doctor, hire another doctor as well in order to make sure that it's occupied. Especially since some of our other staff members are going to start to get tired now. Even having one staff member per room might eventually not be enough, especially if they're frequently visiting the staff room. Those rooms are going to be left empty. And it seems this middle one here is a nice balance of value. So we'll go ahead and hire him to fulfill the GP's office here. And of course, let's not forget those all-important benches and plants and fire extinguishers. One of the features that I remember having to build in Theme Hospital were radiators. But I don't think we have to do that here in 2 Point Hospital. At least I haven't seen them as of yet. So either everybody's very cold right now, or it's just not a feature that we need to worry about here.
Terrible things happen every day. You could lose a toe. Your house. Even your life. That's why you need insurance like Swindles Insurance. Swindles, because peace of mind is worth a piece of your soul. This is 2 Point Radio.
I know it sounds strange, they're such different games, but there's something about that radio commentary that just harkens me back to my days of playing Grand Theft Auto, some of the Grand Theft Auto games. Like I say, I don't know where that's come from. Obviously the games themselves are very different, but I do love that style of radio commentary in these sorts of games, I really do. Anyway, one of the things you might have noticed a couple of minutes ago on the screen there was this information about star ratings. And if you look at the top right hand corner of the screen where the objectives are, you can see this 1-star hospital objective up there. And basically star ratings are, as you'd expect, we get this in, you know, other management games as well. It's the more successful your hospital is, then the more likely you're going to achieve a star. And for each hospital that you build in the game, in career mode, you can achieve up to 3 stars. Now, once you achieve your first star in a hospital, that's going to unlock the next hospital, and you can stop playing the original hospital at that point and move on to the next level if you wish to do so. Alternatively, you can continue working on your current hospital and advancing the star rating even further. What you actually get in terms of the game, when you unlock new stars after star level 1, I'm not exactly sure yet, I haven't got that far, but just a bit of information for you there about that. And as you can see here, I'm now building a ward. And the ward fulfills a diagnostic purpose, so it's a diagnostic room along with the GP's office and the general practitioners. And the required items are the receptionist desk, the screen, and 1 bed. Now, I highly recommend building more than 1 bed because your ward's going to be quite a popular feature of the hospital. As a matter of fact, I would recommend building a ward a bigger size than the one that I've built here. If you can accommodate more than 3 beds, as that's all I can accommodate, then obviously you're going to have more success in this particular area. So you're also going to want to have space for plants. Plants are very important in wards, along of course with the usual dustbins and fire extinguishers. And your ward is going to require a nurse. I actually say a nurse. You can actually, the ward is quite unique. You can actually have multiple nurses working in a single ward. But with 3 beds, I don't think we're going to require more than 1 nurse. But if you do go ahead and build a larger room with more beds and you're going to have more patients, then it is recommended to have multiple nurses in order to manage all their needs. And here you can see a patient with lightheadedness. 2 in fact. And the lightheadedness patient will require a trip to the ward at some point to help with their diagnostics. But that isn't going to cure them. Diagnostic rooms do not cure patients. So we will have to find a treatment room that's going to be suitable for them. I don't think chucking down medicine is going to help in those particular cases. It might have been useful to include a second screen in this room. We've got 3 beds but only 1 screen, and you do tend to get a bit of a queue for the screen, as you can see here. That said, the patient generally doesn't spend all that much time in the screen. They do spend longer in the bed. So you do generally, I would say, need more beds than screens.
I went to a holistics nature commune last week to see what they could do about my gravy allergy. They recommended a long stay at their spa and a bottle of rosemary extract. It cost me a month's wages, but I'm finally starting to feel the effects. Still can't eat gravy though.
One of the things as well that I really enjoy with this game is just the general art style of it. You can zoom in using the mouse wheel, And I haven't really done it in this video, but one thing I do find myself doing is just not actually concerning myself with the management areas of the game. Just zooming in and just watching everybody go about their business, watching the patients get cured was always such a joyful thing to do in Theme Hospital. And, you know, with the modern technologies we have now, it's even more so with 2 Point Hospital. So the game definitely doesn't disappoint in that area. And now it's finally time to actually build the treatment room that we're going to need in order to cure the lightheadedness of patients that have been coming into our hospital for the last few minutes or so. So we're going to go ahead and, well, I have actually done so here, build the Deluxe Clinic. And this is going to have all the tools required to actually cure this quite nasty condition, let's be honest. So hopefully we'll be able to help some of these guys out here in just a moment. And we'll go ahead and open the room. And, okay, the end of the year. So this happens at the end of the financial year for the hospital. And it basically tallies up any awards that you might have collected throughout the course of your adventure this far. And you can open them one at a time, or if you know, have done this a few times, you can go ahead and see them all together by clicking Open All. And you'll basically be getting a reward for each of the awards that you achieved throughout the year. So in this case, we've got the Doctor of the Year and the Nurse of the Year, and I think we get the award for no deaths as well. And of course, there are other competing hospitals around the region as well. So you can't expect to win everything, unfortunately, unless you do a good job in every area. So maybe you'll win everything then. But most of the time, you're just going to excel in a few areas, and then some of the other hospitals are going to win in others. But we'll go ahead and click Open All here, and we've got 4 awards for our first year, so not too shabby at all. And then when we go ahead and close this dialog here, it should tell us our rewards. Well, actually, it did tell us our rewards individually as we open them there. So anyway, where we left off before being so rudely interrupted, we've just opened the Deluxe Clinic here. So hopefully our lightheaded patients will be making their way in. There's actually one sitting down there, and the reason for that is he needs to go into the ward. So he's not actually ready to go into the clinic as of yet, but I do believe one may be on their way. Yep. So let's just spend a moment here and watch the treatment. Hopefully we won't kill this guy. I love that, that is awesome. Unscrewing the light bulb head, disposing of it, seeing a blueprint of the new head they're going to get, and then creating it for them. So that kind of just wacky cure, which is obviously something we're familiar with Theme Hospital, is ever so present in 2 Point Hospital as well.
Floating over Croquembouche in his new gold-plated hovercraft, just like he's always done.
And so our next quest objective is to cure 2 more lightheadedness patients, and we've pretty much got absolutely everything in place now that we need. So it's literally just playing the waiting game while managing other areas if we want to do so, while those patients get cured. And there goes number 2. And depending on how much you know, you manage to diagnose these conditions, there is a small chance that a patient can die instead of being cured once they go through the treatment. So sometimes there is a bit of RNG involved, depending, as I say, on how much of the diagnostics process they've gone through up until that point. But we've just got 1 more to go. Did we do that last one as well? I know we've still got the 1 more to go here. And I do believe this is the final objective for the main part of the tutorial in order to unlock our first star for this first hospital. And I've had so much fun with this already. I'm guessing you guys can tell that though. But I would like to hear your thoughts on 2 Point Hospital as well up until this point. And, you know, please let me know, guys, as well if you're playing this game and any tips and that you might have to share either with me or with any of those that are reading the comment section as well. So one of our doctors is taking a well-deserved rest in our 70s staff room here. We need to get a jukebox or something going on in that place, don't we? And just as a point of interest, we started this tutorial level with $200,000 exactly at our disposal. And we're just going to be finishing the final objectives here, having just about made our way back up to that amount of $200,000. A little bit under at the moment, but that should increase as we cure a few more of these patients here. There we go. So it takes about 30 minutes, I would say, to create a stable hospital. But obviously later on through the game, you're going to have more obstacles to overcome, more issues that you need to solve. So you are going to have to be on your toes a little bit more than we've had to be here in this initial starting level. But hopefully now we're in a profit, and as I continue to play this game, or continue to play this level rather, then we'll see our money going up and up each time. And there we go, 1 star achieved. And along with the star itself, we get some other rewards as well, such as a nice wad of cash to add into our disposal, and also some kudos as well. And so one thing that might be worth doing, although I won't do so in this video since we've already gone on for quite a bit, is just have a look at some of the rooms we've already placed and see if this kudos has given us access to any more items that we can spruce those out with. And there's also some other information there as well. So now the objective has updated to 2-star hospital, telling us what it is that we need to do. We need to cure 25 patients and earn from this point $200,000. And as you do that, then the amount remaining will decrease. You know how much left you've got to do. And we also need to level up our hospital as well. So there's going to be less now in terms of specific tutorials. We just get these overarching objectives, so we know we've got something to work towards. And we've still got some space to play around with as well. But I'm going to finish off this first video here today, guys. So thanks for stopping by and checking this out. And let me know what you think of 2 Point Hospital in the comments section. And if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.